It's loading.
Oh, okay. I will cross.
All right, you're good to go.
All right. Welcome to our guests in the room. Thank you for. Want to introduce yourself? We should do that more regularly, so go ahead.
I'm Mark Bishop, Glens Falls National. Paul Worston from Glens Falls National.
And I'm Lucy Alexander, not from Mark Smart. Thank you. Welcome. So we'll start right out with our reports from our communities. So
Thank you. We did meet last week, September 10th. The minutes are actually in your packet. We did review the financial statements, which will be presented, I believe, going forward. We'll look at everybody to get that in their package. There was nothing of any major significance. It was consistent. There were some receivables that you'll see as we go through it that there's a plan for, there's an understanding relative to it. We did go over very quickly the service provider agreement, and then we looked at some policies as requested and directed by the governance committee. My recall is that we did not have anything significant of resolution, except to approve revisions. And that was covered. Did we miss anything?
Well, we approved the contract to move forward, and we approved those two.
Go to the full board.
Is there anything on the financials you want to highlight? Or was it clearly not?
No, it was
Yeah.
pretty uneventful month. That's a good one. I had the receivable for town Kingsbury. Yes.
We're gonna be carrying that.
Any questions for Kathy? All right.
Morning.
So we met last week as well. We did also review a number of policies. And then Dr. Duncan had suggested during our meeting that we would review the bylaws because it seemed like there was a little bit of overlap between what the audit committee does and what the governance committee does. So we'll get back to everybody after we review that. We talked about new members since the best today. And then just one follow-up item on Jim's performance review. I did connect with you to right along. We'll ask Jim and team to give us an update on all of the activities in EDC.
Okay, so before our next meeting, we will have our annual lunch, and we've had a lot of activity in that in the last month. It took us longer than I would have liked to organize this agenda, and most of that was due to the fact that we were trying to do a follow-up to the things that we had done last year around natural resources in the lake, but it proved to be difficult with the situation that was occurring at the lake. So, but I'm really pleased with the agenda that we have developed. This will be the launching of the analysis that we've been doing over the last 2 years over the history and future of our economy. So we reviewed data that goes back to the early 1800s. We put it together in a paper that you guys have seen multiple iterations of. And essentially that concept is what's going to be launched to the community in this event, and then will become the centerpiece of a lot of the communication that we have with not only members, but with the community at large, probably over the next year to maybe 18 months. And in short, it breaks the economy down into thirds. And we're still branding exactly what those thirds are. I was on a phone call last night until 1 o'clock in the morning talking about that with sort of people who are helping us with this, but some version of the way we had put it in the paper is that it's tourism, healthcare, and essentially public entities and everything else. Well, that's a pretty hard way to describe the economy. And so some version of entertaining, serving, and emerging or building is probably what's going to come out of this. we will not only introduce that concept there, but Paul Smenka from the hospital has agreed to essentially be our anchor speaker. And that's because the hospital is a centerpiece of the economy. It's also because the hospital has a lot to talk about. But the first and foremost piece is it's the largest employer north of Saratoga in New York. It is by far the largest driver to our local economy. I don't know that everyone understands that. And I think us talking about it is one thing, them talking about their own history and scope is another thing. So Paul will be covering some of that together with some of the new things that are happening at the hospital. Then we're going to have another speaker as well to kind of talk through the issues of emerging opportunities, and especially on the entrepreneurship side and the maybe what I call the hidden economy, the parts of it that we don't always see. So it's coming together nicely. It's going to be at the Queensbury Hotel. I think most of the membership has engaged. We're catching up with 1 or 2 members just to make sure that they're still intending to come. It will be, I believe, a high energy event. And it's only the first of several that we're having in the month. The Albany Business Journal is renewing their Power Breakfast series, which they did prior to COVID. And we are the sponsor of one for the North Country, which will be on the 25th. So I would certainly encourage all of you, if you can, to go to that. There will be a panel of which we will participate of business leaders from the North Country talking about the emerging economy here, which I think is really good timing. Because at that event, we can cover the analysis that we will have presented and will have introduced to the community about what the economy looks like for our region. And it will give us a larger platform to be able to talk about that. At SUNY Adirondack, we're also going to be a partner in their AI event, and certainly want to give you an opportunity at any point to talk about that. And then we're also Startup EDC, which is the entrepreneurship entity that SUNY Adirondack essentially leads, but we are a big participant in. That also launches this month, and we're building some companions to go with it for the first time. So working with Bob Bullock, who is the leader at SUNY Adirondack, we have a pretty ambitious agenda for the coming year. This fall, the companion that will launch at the same time as Startup EDC is, you got to come up with a better name for it, but it's essentially our reverse marketplace where we've built the outlines of 5 businesses that we're looking for people to step into. We've already lined up working capital to start them. So we're looking for either entities that already exist to take on these business ideas or net new entrepreneurs. So side by side with the people who would bring their business plan to be funded, will be essentially outline business plans that are ready to be funded if we can find the right people to do. This is a pretty cool idea, and it's generated a lot of interest from the media. And one of the ideas that has generated the most interest is the idea of using milfoil as an ingredient rather than as a cost. I don't know if it's doable, but that's probably the most defined business plan that we have. A lot of analysis went in this summer with some of the people that we had working here over the summer to help really refine that marketplace and understand the opportunity that's there. I think it's a pretty exciting idea that we're introducing concepts that maybe others didn't even know were possible, but are definitely aligned with our own local economy. I did want to update you quickly on where we stand with our municipal partners on their budgets. We met and Kathy joined us with the county in their initial foray into talking to every entity about their budget. The county has got its own dynamic going on right now, where they're both entertaining the idea of increasing the sales tax and also planning for a world if they do not. And so most of the businesses, departments that presented to them essentially presented a contingency case of how they would reduce their budget in light of the county not getting the sales tax revenue that they're talking about. We did not do that. We presented one budget, and with I think some structure behind it that explained that our budget had been flat for 12 years, and we had fought for 2 or 3 years to finally get it right. And last year that was done. And so our recommendation was that we not immediately go backwards on that. And it was received. So at this point, we've not been asked for any additional information. I view that as a very good sign. There's still a lot that has to go on in the county. Last year, this budget wasn't approved until the new year. So it could be that this thing is resolved in October, but it could also be that this extends into the new year. I do feel like there is full awareness at the county of the importance of the EDC in terms of building long-term diversified revenues, both from a tax-based standpoint and from an overall economy standpoint. That has not always been the case in the time that I've been there, so I was very encouraged by that. We have presented our updated contract to the town of Queensbury. That contract expired on June 30th, so we are operating essentially in good faith on that, which is not unusual. We've done that with all of the municipal entities that we support multiple times. I believe that we, like many things in Queensbury, that will take some time to resolve. And we're managing that from a cash flow standpoint, but I feel confident from talking with the Queensbury board members that there's bilateral, bipartisan support for the role of the EDC. And so I believe this will eventually be successfully resolved. And then the city is leaning on this more than I think that they have ever had. And I'm not surprised by that. I think the last 2 years, their focus has very much been on South Street and the DRI and trying to make sure that they were able to bring that thing to its long-awaited state. But the larger question of the city's role in the larger economy is one that I think we've been partnering with them well beyond the value of the contract that we had. I meet with the mayor, if not every week, at least 2 or 3 times a month. It's probably more than we meet with any other municipality. And we integrate and align the things that they're doing with what we're doing probably better than we do with any other municipality. And I think that they have some of the most significant opportunities available to us. So I do believe that there is growth opportunity to be had, both in terms of the contract value, but also the scope of work that we perform. Finally, or I guess the next thing would be our membership. Last year was a pretty good year for membership. We essentially got ourselves back from a dollar standpoint to the pre-COVID levels, although the membership numbers of actual members is down, but the business community is also smaller than it was in 2019 and 2020. This year, we're going to try to take an even more assertive and better planned approach. We're going to send out our renewal notices in the next month and begin the process of engaging with all our members before the year ends. We're more organized than we've ever been, and I want to thank Deanna and Trish primarily for that. And I also believe that we have the opportunity to expand our membership into, especially south of here, especially with the press coverage that we're likely to receive this fall. That's probably the place where I'll ask for some help from you, simply so that if there's any network that you have that can create opportunities for us to talk to entities. We have a number of notable members that are not based in Warren County, but continue to invest in Warren County. And I believe the opportunity to do that is even greater, mostly because this, the building and developing sector of Warren County still has upside to it. And other than the Route 9 corridor in northern Saratoga County, that's not true universally in the area south of us. And so there is great interest amongst what I would consider to be the traditional development part of the economy of being in touch with what the opportunities are here. It's also a possibility for us to consider as we look to expand our work, if there are the right figures and the right organizations that we think fit strategically in with us. But normally we talk about membership the first quarter of the year. This year we're going to be talking about it with you in the last quarter of this year. think that's a really positive thing. Darren, why don't we launch it at the
handout. Our news activity update chart. Updated monthly. We've got one new project, last month. Not for recreation. That was our main project or like we're trying now we're up about 49 active projects that we're working on our projects and opportunities. Which is higher than it's been for some time. As far as the breakdown of pie breakdown, that's pretty pretty steady. I would have to be new opportunity last month, and it was outside of it wasn't the north part of the county, so that work. It was strictly that geographically breaking. It's also recreation side. We have been as far as working with three entities that have been approved for new development in Mason New. So now we can fully talk about it. First one we talked a little bit about last month is Proof Hockey. They're setting up a new processing facility for roasting and in Tech Meadows. That's their desire, and the LBC, the Glen Falls LBC, approved their lot purchase. And now it's gone. Now it's in the next stage, which is a review process between officials from both Glen Falls and Queensbury to review the project. It seems like it's moving along pretty well, so we're very excited about it.
I want to interrupt you for a second, because this is not just another project. It's the first tangible thing for the private sector in Tech Meadows since the park was established nearly 25 years ago. To get an entity to the point at which they're purchasing a lot and actively engaged in the permitting process has never occurred here. And the review committee between Queensbury and Glen Falls is reviewing for architectural and planning compatibility, but they have no authority to approve or deny the project. They're simply providing input to make sure that it stays compatible with what's going on. This is important because it's aligned with Queensbury's intention, although they have not yet published their comprehensive plan. We participate in the development of that plan, and that corridor is designed to receive additional commercial traffic and be zoned accordingly to relieve the traffic on the Main Street corridor. And this is a step towards actually developing that. So it is both aligned with the development of the park and it's aligned with the future direction that Queensbury has. Important because sometimes we're Queensbury's economic development. Most of the time that does not come in some kind of conflict with our role of the larger county, or in Glen Falls' case, of being their representative at the table. And in this particular case, I think every entity is being well served. And it looks like a modest building. If this building proceeds as it's going, this will be the first of what I hope to be the true development opportunity of that entire park.
How many dogs?
He suggested 8 for the initial setup here, and we suggested that he be conservative in that. I suspected it's greater than that, but in all of his documents to date, that's what he's going.
Also, we've been working very closely with that Putney Rock. I know that's really the use point. Happy to say that they have chosen to stay with Queensbury. They're going to be out on the west side of Airports, actually, on Point Road. They bought a third of that lot. They bought 10 acres of 33 acres that the barbers had. And they're going to be building a 90,000 square foot building there, which is much bigger than their current location. And they hope to add about 15 new jobs at this site when it's done over the next couple of years.
This is another example of how we have to work. Doesn't matter who says what in what paper. We were engaged in this from the start to the extent that parties were willing to allow us to engage. They're under no obligation to meet with us or do what we ask them or as guidance. over time, we were able to develop a better and I think a more helpful relationship with FWF as they contended with some of the local planning processes. And this is the work we have to do, is stay in contact with everybody. Not either give up on something or allow ourselves to be drawn into the politics and emotion. Eventually, we were gonna find a home. We did find it. And there won't be any headline in the Chronicle about it. But it's really, at this point, 18 months worth of work to try to just take a deep breath and help people find guidance.
Will they be closing their current facility?
Yes. That lot will. Be, for sale on it. Take off another opportunity for that.
Where's the current issue?
It's, you know, where the old Kmart used to be, it's just in that.
Oh,
triangle.
yeah, okay, but then the stories.
And also here, we, worked closely with Fine Marrow, which is the cannabis indoor cultivation facility that also distribution. We worked with them for, gosh, a year and 2 years probably. They moved ahead, now they purchased a lot in Queensbury Business Park. They hit 9 acres. They're gonna be building a 30,000 square foot facility there, targeted for the end of next year. They plan to employ about 20 to 25 people in it. That's $10 million, so pretty significant. It's, again, the first one in the Queensbury Business Park.
Yeah, and so essentially at the same time, we have developed into 2 parks that we haven't had for 25 years.
17.
That's a significant thing that I think we're gonna continue to try to communicate during our mention. That this facility has already passed the Queensbury Planning Board, which I have to tell you, I was quite surprised at how smoothly that went, because oftentimes things do not always go smoothly there. But they were so prepared, and I think we were a part of that. That every question that planning board had was easily resolved at the table, and they approved them in 1 week.
You know if they've been connected with us at all? I don't, because we do have the cannabis, we have a cannabis curriculum contributions.
Well, we always talk to them about the eventual connection there. It's part of the agenda we have with them. I think right now they're focused on making sure that they get the presidents on, you know, the building, and they're investors and keeping them all in the boat, because this has more to do with New York State and the licensing and the time that it's been taking. But I think now is the right time for us to engage.
Yeah. Is it all private investors?
Yes.
The next thing is just basically a summary of stuff, basically. Businesses that are located, in actually, but in how it is, but.
I think we probably could.
Yeah. Even on smaller businesses, talk about this. See that I jump up in a number of startups and inquiries we've got small entities and new entities. This chart here is one of the something which helps us update, and it shows the year to date. We did a 6-month year to date this year compared to prior years of the number of business corporations in our state.
Full years.
Yeah, no, the red ones are 4 years, but the orange ones, 2024, just shows for 6 months. So we're trying to get about in the same area, but we're going to get about above average. That 548 number, which has been kind of the norm since the pandemic. And Jim's pointed out before that jumped up significantly right after the pandemic. So we're just trying to follow this to make sure, number one, these people are trying to identify that and really work at that side of it. We're also seeing that the trends are moving around up and down. Right now, it seems to be almost steady.
So when we enter the new year, we're developing a process where we will be in contact with any business that registers here. We've been working with the county and the county clerk's office to try to align that CPG to validate the data. I don't expect that the majority of them will be responsive. They have no choose to stay under the radar for their own reasons, but I think what we're going to offer them is the immediate membership in the EDC and the opportunity for us to engage with them to do anything we can to understand and support them. I think there will be some that are interested in that offer, and hopefully this will start to create some entryway into this part of the economy.
This next chart is interesting. This is the one that shows the number of really active micro businesses that are in one. And this shows yearly averages for the last 4 years plus this year's year-to-date number for June actually. So it seems like we're trending well where we were before, but they moved around a little bit. But it's still a good sign. The micro business is under 10 people. That's the definition of this. So
But you have to have two things. You have to have a active website in that entity's name, and then you have to register that business in one county in order for it to show up there. GoDaddy does not register all of these internet domains, but because once the internet domain exists, it flows into their purview will be able to see, they're able to still identify it. So network solutions, there are others that you can actually purchase a domain name with GoDaddy, but this is an inclusive list.
Who knew in the formal business world that we be signature like GoDaddy? Which is, oh, my mind.
this next slide is a list of some of the meetings and work that kind of been last month since our last meeting. This is what it is, some of the activities. And the next slide is the engagement slide. What this is you can tracking our engagements. And that would be anything like a meeting, a personal meeting, or attending a meeting, clients that come in as well, or us going to a variety of different meetings for any given month. We've been tracking this beginning of the year, which should. Yeah, I've done a great job populating that, translating from our calendar and all the other stuff. We've been meeting with the public out. And when we did reorganize this, and just to give you a sense from the last 3 months, what the kinds of numbers we have, and somewhat of the organization of this, the planning and next thing is more than the things like participating in the comprehensive plan, anything having to do with preparing, planning, that kind of thing. Get involved in something good time regularly, give all places they'll have to basically. The organization operations is one of the monthly municipal meetings we have, and for stakeholder types of meetings, board meetings, county meetings that occur regularly. We're out there representing there. The last one, the red one, is one of the business and all other entities that we're engaged with, that we're reaching out. May not necessarily be a project per se, but they are some sort of communication that we're having with the business world and others.
Really what we're trying to do here is give some insight to the stuff that doesn't make its way into an active project that's seeking formal funding or support. But that's still something we're engaged in, providing some kind of expertise to and tracking. So some of these eventually produce projects. Like the Union Square project is an example of that. That redevelopment is underway at some point. That will probably transition into some kind of request for formal support for us in terms of funding or applicant towards some of the state programs that we have to conduit for. But all along, for the very first time that they proposed this project, they came here and then asked for navigation help to figure out how would they approach the city, how would they approach the commercial lending sector. Well, and I find that to be heartening that they felt like we were the right place to start. At this point, they're doing very well. You know, every meeting they have, they're able to get to the next point. They just were at the Glens Falls LDC, and we helped them through that presentation. Chacon is the former down on they're an example of an employer who's looking for help trying to figure out their workforce issues. That's universal, but we're engaging with them to try to figure out not only where we can help them target opportunities, but where are programs that they should be participating in that might help create pipelines. And Nettle Meadow Farms is an example of the LTC, which I don't think most people realize just how much time we spend. We're only reimbursed for $50,000. I would say that the end spend is probably at least 25–30% of her time on the ODC. There's only 4 active loan recipients there, but there are a ton of potential applicants and potential sources of activity. We just launched a pre-development fund for that we're going to trial with builders, for instance. The term sheet and everything that had to be developed there, there's no place to track this, so this is an example. Nettle Meadow Farms was in a bad place at the beginning of the year, and with the LDC and our active help, and they not only survive the season, but have a viable business plan to move into the next chapter. That's a win that won't necessarily show up anywhere, but is really, really important for not only Warren County. We already covered, I think.
It's already this next one. The last one.
The only reason I put this last chart in about alignment with strategic plan is that we're going to talk about this, with the entire board, and we continue to track the activities we have against that, which was identified in the strategic plan 4 or 5 years ago. Hopefully realizing there are some things that are just net in addition to and appropriate to overlay and matrix at that meeting. Help you understand where.
I saw housing on here, I don't know, with, the homestead development park up in Lake Placid. So it's a non-for-profit, people donate land, and there's a, construction developer that would donate his time. So they build homes and townhouses, and, the reason it's affordable housing for people that can't afford high cost of housing within the Lake Placid region. And so a home they build is maybe a $400,000 home. And then if you are in this middle range of town, you're not close, so you might be a nurse that has a half hours, you have 200 nurses in this housing. And you could be a school teacher, you might qualify for this. So you can go in and get this home for $200,000. And you purchase it just like you would, you need a lender, and we have lenders that set up. And then we're starting, hopefully this is internally, and I have to figure it out. The biggest roadblock for people is the down payment, you should have to put in, 5% to $10,000. So we're looking potentially for a community, John Ready Community Center, help our employees with the down payment, in which has a tail on it, right? You have to stay this. But it's a way to get affordable housing and nice housing to a place, and so they are hoping to recreate it there, just about a nice concept if we could, listen to what they're doing and bring it up.
Is that Fawn Valley? What's Fawn Valley?
Yes, that's exactly it. Yeah.
So,
Can we talk after?
Yeah.
so important to understand that we've been engaged with the county about this ever since we sponsored that housing study. That ultimately we all want this. We've got to figure out who would be the entity that would administer and manage that program. And we're in dialogue with the county right now about, do they set up a vision? Is there a housing authority that needs established separately, or do we part of this like it's already doing for region? So I'm hopeful that we'll come to an answer with them, and then we can start talking the stuff you're talking about.
Yeah, this gentleman is just passionate about it.
Right, so as this person connected with. Just
I
to talk about
it
the process.
I have a problem.
Yeah, we don't know them personally, but in the project, if you could connect with them. But I have a couple of ideas, but
The assets in Essex County are actually quite developed. They are right now. Essex County has a housing organization as part of their county structure. They have a full-time staff, and so they're able to utilize some of the programs that Betty set up with the Ironic Foundation readily. That's one of the things we've been in dialogue with, is to try to figure out if that would be the right entity for our county.
so
I just had a couple of questions. So the EDC launch, so how many seats have we sold at the launch?
We have committed seats. Our members who get those seats, right, and we sold about 45.
I'm anticipating to finish between 175 and 200, which would be slightly less than last year's numbers. Not surprised that the interest in that venue was high and the topic was high. And our late start is the part of this. But whatever the message is there, we're bringing it up to the world as soon as it's over. So we'll find out.
The second thing is just the October 22nd event at college. We're really excited about the speaker. His name is Todd McLeese. He is part of an organization called Human Skills AI, and what he is doing is working with higher education, also business and corporate partners to talk about how to responsibly use AI as part of asset in your workforce. And what the format of the day will be, there'll be an opening keynote starting at 8 a.m. We will invite all members of the business community, probably K through 12, and of course our internal community. After that, he's going to facilitate a panel of economic development chamber business leaders to talk about, how is AI impacting your workforce today, or how to anticipate it. And then after that, he'll hold a special session just for business leaders to talk with them and walk them through processes on how to incorporate AI in their work. As a follow along to the workshop, so it's not just a one and done, they've developed these 30-day challenges that will be inviting businesses to engage their employees in. It's a 30-day, 15-minute a day, kind of how do I use AI in my daily work or my life. It becomes a community of practice, so they meet, they do the work, but they also meet synchronously through Zoom at least 4 times during that 30-day period. And the idea, of course, is then to come out of that saying, okay, I've at least understood the basics of how to navigate this world. And then how do I really customize it to the work that I do every day? So we just signed the contract this week, and we'll be pushing out information to you and to, of course, the business community for some financial support along the way. But really engaging speaker. A few of us saw him speak in Austin, and that's how we got connected and excited about this community that college hopes to be kind of a facilitator of AI information. So we anticipate this to be a kickoff of more things to come. So just want to have that. Any other questions? If not, you have in your packet, we did thank you for those who completed the board evaluation. It's in your packet. If you have had a chance to look at it, I think there's some opportunities for us. It's related with our strategic planning session that Tricia sent out a request to try to look at some dates in November. But I mean, overall, it's, the board is satisfied with the work that the is doing. But the one area that we could probably continue to improve upon is helping to really develop those measurable goals. And that would be a great opportunity for us to do that at our strategic planning session. Jim and I spoke last week about what we're envisioning as the format of the session. We're really 2 hours, we barely get people to pay attention for 20 minutes these days, right? But 2 hours, and really the idea, especially we have so many new board members since the strategic plan was created, which was pre-COVID. Many of you weren't involved with that. We want to kind of go back in time, take a look at here's what we said we wanted to do, here's what we've accomplished, and then what are the 2 or 3 things that we really want to focus on going forward. Not necessarily writing a whole new strategic plan, but revisiting the one that we had. There will be things that will certainly translate to the work that we're doing now, and obviously, what you see monthly, there's a lot of activity happening within the EDC, now kind of putting the path forward and having an opportunity for the board to have that discussion, come out with at least some high level areas that we want to focus on. So that's at this point, we're looking at questions on that or thoughts? So just make sure if you haven't, just to let Trish know what dates might be the best for you. So moving right along, we do have several proposals, resolutions, the first are the financials, we have the meeting minutes, we have 3 policies that have been reviewed by the appropriate committees. And so entertain a motion to approve all of those.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, aye. Opposed? Thank you. Any other business to come before us today? Any other executive session? So,
The work that we discussed in the previous executive session, ongoing, as well with the entity that's up for completion. Certainly. Recording.
for that next month. So with that, I just want to go on record, with dismissal, 8:45. Thank you all for your attention today. Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you.